Hi, today we'll be talking about the Kingdom of Heaven. So the movie centers around the reclamation of the Kingdom of Jerusalem by the Muslims from the Christians in the 12th century. The movie is heavily fictionalized for added dramatic screenplay with many inaccuracies, but it did revolve around the true happenings and real individuals that were involved. Although it was downplayed, the events of the movie revolve around the battle between the Muslims and the Christians for the Holy Land, but more from the perspective of the latter. Today I'll speak more on the truth and the background behind the key individuals and events that occurred. We will first discuss the Kingdom of Jerusalem and how it reached the state that it was in the movie, which leads to the Christians and the Crusaders of the time, followed by the Sultan Saladin and his background, and we will also talk about the three key events that happened in the movie. First, the siege of Karak, followed by the Battle of Hattin, and the siege of Jerusalem that led to the Muslims' victory in the reclaiming of the kingdom. So, Jerusalem is one of the oldest and most ancient cities in the world. Within its long history, it has been attacked 52 times, captured and recaptured 44 times, besieged 23 times, and destroyed twice. The Kingdom of Jerusalem was a crusader state with multiple territories and cities. This means that it was conquered by Christian crusaders, which we'll talk more about that in a bit, that lasted around 200 years. When it was at its largest, the Kingdom of Jerusalem contained most of modern-day Israel, Palestine, and had some lands in modern-day Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. However, the city of Jerusalem itself remains and always has been deemed as a holy land. The Holy Land holds religious significance to the Christians, Muslims, and the Jews. Now, to get a picture of the kingdom before the setting of the movie, the Kingdom of Jerusalem was conquered by the Christian First Crusaders in 1099 from the Muslims, who had a 450-year rule prior to this by the Umayyad, Abbasid, and lastly the Fatimid dynasty. This leads us to the Christian Crusaders that held the kingdom for 88 years. So the movie introduces the First Crusades, which are a series of religious wars by the Roman Catholic during the medieval period, but specifically coined for the attacks between 1096, and 1271 that were intended to recapture the Holy Land from Islamic control. The people that fought these wars were called Crusaders and had many military orders from Europe. The First Crusade battles and the First Siege of Jerusalem that overtook the Holy Land from the Fatimid Caliphate. After the siege, the Kingdom of Jerusalem was established by the Christians. The first king was King Baldwin, who took the throne after his brother Godfrey of Bouillon, a leader of the First Crusade and the founder of the kingdom, who wished not to be king, had passed away. It is to be noted that the kingdom was ruled by French kings. However, the kingship was partially elected and hereditary. During the events of the movie, some 80+ years after the first king, the kingdom was headed by King Baldwin IV. He was a leper king, meaning he had an infection that would have led to his premature death on the throne. Prior to him taking the throne, Muslims and Jews were allowed to inhabit the holy city. This was held together by several peace treaties between the Christians and the Muslims from the leaders prior. However, the truth was weakened during the time of King Baldwin and Saladin, the founder of the Ayyubid dynasty. So the movie mentions Saladin, but very little of his background and dynasty he founded, mainly because the movie focused more on the Christian side. So the Ayyubid dynasty was founded by Saladin, who was the first sultan of Egypt and Syria. The dynasty rose during the fall of the Fatimid Caliphate. Saladin was born in Mesopotamia and was well-educated and had a strong military background. He started the Ayyubid Sultanate of Egypt and Syria after the rule was passed down to him when his uncle, a general that seized Egypt, died. During Saladin's tenure as Sultan, his military conquests were Egypt, Syria, Upper Mesopotamia, Yemen, and other parts of North Africa. The Ayyubid dynasty was based in Damascus and Aleppo during its short 89-year reign. But during this period, there were economic prosperity in the lands ruled, and Sunni Muslim was aggressively strengthened in the regions by constructing numerous madrasas which popularized Sunni Islam. In the movie, Saladin received the most screen time during the Battle of Hattin against the Christian Crusaders led by Guy de Lusignan that ended with the victorious reclamation of the Holy Land of the Muslims. So several events led up to the reconquest of the Kingdom of Jerusalem by Saladin. As retold in the movie, the truce between King Baldwin and Sultan Saladin was weakened when the Crusaders attacked the Saracen caravans, but it was actually for a different reason that involved another city. The movie also did not fully show the siege of Karak, other than how it was resolved when King Baldwin brought his relief forces to face Saladin's army that had surrounded Iraq. Following the death of King Baldwin IV and King Baldwin V, the politics portrayed in the movie was very much downplayed when Guy took to the throne through his marriage with Sibylla. Princess Sibylla happens to be the sister of King Baldwin IV as well as the mother of King Baldwin V. But skipping the politics, Guy's claim to the throne as the new king of Jerusalem meant that he could declare war against the Saracens. So the Battle of Hattin took place in 1187, led by Guy and the Crusaders against Saladin and the Saracens. In the movie, Balin's advice was ignored by Guy when asked to stay close to the waters. This was in fact true and led to the brutal loss for King Guy and his army. He was later held a prisoner and a weakened Christian army left Jerusalem defenseless when Saladin's forces took siege of Jerusalem. The movie also did not mention that Balian was there at the Battle of Hattin. He was one of the commanders, but he managed to survive and return to Jerusalem after the disastrous defeat. During the siege that lasted almost 2 weeks and not 3 days as mentioned in the movie, Balian did surrender the city. However, the movie's truce was not as favorable as what had happened in history. The people of Jerusalem was actually given a choice to pay a ransom for their freedom or otherwise be forced into slavery if not paid within the 50 days. The siege saw the success of Saladin's claim of the Holy Land for the Muslims once again. The movie ended by showing the Third Crusade riding towards Jerusalem. They did attempt to reclaim the Kingdom of Jerusalem for the Christians against Saladin later in 1189, 2 years after the Battle of Hattin.